Labour and the Liberal Democrats will try to reboot their campaigns in the final fortnight of the election after a new poll showed them being hammered in Leave constituencies. Jeremy Corbyn and Jo Swinson are being forced to change tack by the failure of their initial plans to win over voters, and advances by Boris Johnson's Conservatives. The mid-campaign shift, often a sign of weakness in elections, comes as all the parties digest the findings of a 100,000-voter YouGov poll pointing to a 68-seat Tory majority. The survey method, which predicted a hung parliament in 2017, found 43% of voters across the UK would back the Tories in an election tomorrow, compared to 32% for Labour, 14% for Labour and 3% for the Brexit Party. It would translate into 359 seats for the Tories, 211 for Labour, 43 for the SNP, 13 for the Lib Dems, 4 for Plaid Cymru and 1 Green. The bulk of Tory gains would be in the north of England and Midlands, breaking through the so-called red wall that Labour needs to preserve to have any chance of power. In Scotland, the SNP was predicted to gain 8 seats by picking up 5 of Labour's 7, 2 of the Tories' 13, and 1 of the 4 held by the Lib Dems. The BBC reported Labour was moving to a more defensive campaign after underestimating the willingness of Leave voters to switch from Labour to Tory and overestimating the threat from the Lib Dems. Instead of attacking Tory seats, Labour will focus on shoring up support in vulnerable areas such as the Midlands to persuade Leavers of Labour's plan for an EU referendum in which Mr Corbyn would remain neutral as an honest broker. It means a lower profile for Labour frontbenchers closely associated with Remain, such as Sir Keir Starmer and Emily Thornberry, and a greater role for Leavers such as Party Chairman Ian Lavery and the more Brexit-friendly Richard Burgon, Laura Pidcock, and John Trickett. There will also be a big push on the risk of returning Mr Johnson as PM for 5 years in the hope Labour can squeeze the Lib Dem vote. Campaigning in Southampton, Mr Corbyn did not respond directly to questions on whether he had changed Labour's election strategy. He stressed his plan for securing a credible Brexit deal before putting it to the country in a referendum within 6 months to bring the UK together. "That is a message I will take out all over the country, and our campaign is in every part of the country," he said. "Do you know what, I say the same thing in every place I go. I don't have one message for one group and another message for another group." However, his closest ally, Unite General Secretary Len McCluskey, said the party did have to explain to working-class Leave communities why they would be better off under Mr Corbyn than Mr Johnson. He said, "What Labour needs to do is try and explain that." For more on this story, visit the news article link.